Hey, this is Zulem Urbina, and tune into the relay for the latest news in boxing all around the world. Thank you for supporting myself and other female boxers. We truly appreciate it.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, and now it's time for our weekend recap. We're going to start it off with the Joshua Buatsi versus Richard Bolotniks light heavyweight contest. This proved to be more of an acid test than I anticipated. I did go with Joshua Buatsi to win by way of knockout or technical knockout, but I anticipated that it would happen much sooner, and I have to admit that I underestimated the durability, the heart, and the boxing acumen of Richard Bolotniks, a cruiserweight who has since moved down to light heavyweight, which would explain the durability he exhibited in the 6th round when he came very close to being stopped. I like the jab of Joshua Buatsi and the body work early on. I think that helped to slow Richard Bolotniks down, leading up to that very grueling 6th round. I like the counters from Bolotniks. And the activity. Richard Bolotniks, who refused to let Joshua Buatsi have it all his way. Buatsi might shoot a jab. You'd see a bit of catch and shoot from Bolotniks, who'd respond with a left hand of his own. He didn't want to let himself be outworked. Didn't want to let Joshua Buatsi land clean without responding in kind. I mean, Richard Bolotniks was very much in this fight, and that's a defining characteristic of it, that even in moments where Joshua Buatsi might be getting off a salvo, a combination, there was a sense of danger there from Richard Bolotniks, who'd respond with short punches, sharp shots of his own. Joshua Buatsi was a bit too static, a bit too upright at times, and it made me nervous as he would attempt to lay into Richard Bolotniks, and Richard was determined to not be outgunned, to fight fire with fire. So a good body work from Buatsi leading up to the 6th. I think those body shots that Joshua Buatsi was sneaking in there helped to slow Richard Bolotniks leading up to the 6th round. In that 6th round, Bolotniks took a lot of hard shots. It was in the 6th round that Joshua Buatsi fired off an uppercut that was the start of a punishing salvo. Got Richard in trouble. But you know, this Richard Bolotniks guy, he's a real tough guy. He weathers the shot, regains his composure, gets back on the prowl, starts stalking Joshua Buatsi, tries to pin him down in the corner. He fires off a right hand, and Joshua Buatsi slips it, fires off a right hand of his own, and follows up with a straight left hand that drops Richard Bolotniks right on his back pocket. He sat him down. Richard is given a standing 8 count, tries to regain his composure, and Joshua Buatsi, at this point, he smells blood. He goes in for the kill. Tries to mow Bolotniks down. Bolotniks on unsteady legs, doing his best to survive, doing his best to weather the storm. Buatsi connecting with several hard shots. It's a wonder that the fight didn't finish right then and there. Yeah, I've seen fights stopped for less. Somehow, Bolotniks survived it. He weathers the storm, regains his composure. Survives another round. And you know, that 6th round, it was a highlight reel round for Joshua Buatsi, it was, but it was a bit of a trade-off as it left Joshua Buatsi spent. You got the sense after that 6th round that perhaps the attack was too panicked and too frenzied, that Joshua Buatsi could have picked his shots better and not just go hell for leather, winging shots. You also have to give credit to Richard Bolotniks' survival instincts, his survival skills, his durability, making out of that round. It's a combination of the two, if you ask me, though that's only if you ask me. The 7th round was a much better round for Richard Bolotniks. Joshua Buatsi had slowed down significantly. And he was warned in that 7th round for a shot that sailed a bit low. Buatsi got a warning. Bolotniks, you know, he had a much better 7th round. Much better 7th round than what the 6th was for him. He got his feet back under him. Still herky-jerky, still durable, still countering in kind, and still in this fight, very much in this fight. In the 8th, Bolotniks came out a little bit more confident due to that 7th round, and Joshua Buatsi landed several hard shots in the first minute of that 8th round. He weathered those shots, gets back on his own jab, starts stalking Joshua Buatsi, whose back is to the ropes, circling the ring, trying to walk Bolotniks into a shot, trying to counter him, capitalize on some kind of an opportunity. The 8th round was also a decent round for Bolotniks. A shot from Buatsi sails far too low. Adequate call from referee Howard Foster, who'd had enough.
Are you trying to punch this guy in his family jewels?
You had to give the 7th and the 8th to Bolotniks. The 9th round was a better round for Joshua Buatsi, though. Bolotniks was there for every minute, every second of that round, making Joshua Buatsi work for it.
Tough man, this Bolotniks.
The 10th round was evenly fought round by both men, fighting deep in the pocket, within close quarters. I think it would have done Joshua Buatsi a great service to employ the uppercut a bit more often in those situations in that 10th round. Perhaps he could have ended it right then and there had he employed the uppercut more often.
Bolotniks, he's a tough fucking guy, man.
In the 11th and final round of this light heavyweight contest, this light heavyweight fight, that's where Joshua Buatsi ended it after landing a couple of shots downstairs.
Goes up top with a big right hand.
Huge. And Bolotniks was there for it because he was protecting his midsection. He was protecting his body from the body shots. His face was unprotected. Joshua Buatsi gets off that huge right hand. And that was all she wrote. He connected with a lot of hard shots leading up to the knockout, and you smelt it coming. You knew what time it was.
This was an acid test.
I didn't realize that going into the fight. I did go with Joshua Buatsi to win, and win by way of knockout or technical knockout, and I understand that, but I didn't think he was going to have to work this hard for it, and I'm okay with that, because these occupational hazards, these kind of guys that maybe you never heard of them, but they can give you something to work around. Maybe they can give you some resistance. These are very important fights for up-and-coming fighters like Joshua Buatsi, who isn't yet the finished product. He's not yet the finished article, and that's okay. He advanced to a professional record of 15-0.
Leading up to this fight, I didn't think he'd be ready to fight for a title.
And no, that's not a knock on him. And here, post-fight, I don't think he's ready to fight for a title now. That's okay. At 15-0, most guys aren't ready to fight for a fucking title.
Exemptions and exceptions don't speak for the majority.
I do happen to think he needs to step it up a little more, clean some things up, some problem areas. He's a little bit too static at times, seems vulnerable, bit too upright.
But that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to be ready for Dmitry Bivol or Artur Beterbiev leading up to this fight or after it.
Bolotnik the Bivol.
No fucking way. Look, Joshua Buatsi is progressing and developing on schedule. He's not too late for a step up, and he's not too early either. He's right on track, and I liked what I saw.
There's obviously more work needs doing.
But isn't there always? Isn't that always the case? Ultimately, I think it was a good showing for Joshua Buatsi, perhaps not his best, though still very good, and he exhibits all the potential of what could be a world-class contender and maybe a world champion. Congratulations to him. We then come to the main event of the Golden Boy Promotions card, the exciting, titillating welterweight matchup between up-and-comer Virgil Ortiz and former world title challenger Igis Mean Machine Kavaliauskas. And I told you, this is going to be a firefight. I told you, there's a chance that Virgil might have to pick himself up off the deck in this fight. I told you. This one,
Real acid test for Ortiz.
you got a lot of boxing fans, and they think that unless some promoter or some network is blowing smoke up your ass about a fighter, he must not be very good.
Never mind that Mean Machine's a two-time Olympian, right?
But he's a pretty good boxer, if I do say so myself, a pretty good boxer puncher. That's his signature style. Never mind that he dropped Terrence Crawford. I mean, we all know that the referee didn't rule it a knockdown. We all know that the referee ruled it a slip, but we also know what we saw with our own two eyes. I've said it before and I'll say it again. That's not a knock on Crawford. That's not because Crawford is a bad fighter, a defensively irresponsible. That's because Igis Kavaliauskas, he's actually pretty good. Solid right hand on this guy. Good jab. He's not the kind of fighter I would describe as a jabber, though he has one, and he does use that jab to set up his shots.
Told you he's a good fucking fighter.
Virgil Ortiz. Virgil fucking Ortiz. How can you not love this kid?
Sensational.
I look at Virgil Ortiz and I tell myself, this kid right here, this kid, this is everything that's right with boxing. This is what you want to see.
He plays the guitar, too.
Likes a mean lasagna.
Does he really?
No, I made that part up, but he does hit hard. And Mean Machine, as it were, found that out the hard way.
They got off to a slow, respectful start in the first round.
Both men looking for safe entry behind the lead hand, jabbing at one another.
Neither ready to commit to anything.
Both men very cautious, very careful, pulling those lead hands, angling, searching for an opportunity, searching for a way to gain safe entry to land bigger shots. The first round was probably the quietest round of this fight.
And that comes as a surprise to no one.
Because both of these guys are boxer punchers, and because both of these guys, they ain't got the temperament of a pure boxer to just fight the majority of the fight behind the lean hand before going for the gusto, going for the big shots. Things picked up in the last minute of the second round. It feels like Mean Machine managed to penetrate Virgil Ortiz's guard, and he starts pouring it on. He smells blood. He senses he can hurt his man. He really goes for it. Virgil Ortiz, in the process of trying to fight him off, he goes for a big shot of his own, knocks himself down.
It was a spirited second round.
I have to say that in the early goings of this fight, Whenever both of these guys would let their hands go, get into an exchange, trade blows, the shortness and sharpness of Igor Kavaliauskas' punches, it really did stand out. Virgil's shots did seem a bit wider.
It was a spirited second and third round.
I mean, Machini goes in for the gusto again, and Virgil Ortiz, he scores a knockdown, an official knockdown.
Off a jab right hand.
Seems to me, at least from where I was sitting, that Igor Kavaliauskas' punch selection, shortness, and the tightness of those shots, it was a little better than Virgil Ortiz's in the early goings of this fight. But I think Virgil Ortiz proved to be the better physical specimen, the more durable guy, and the harder puncher.
I think the pace got the Igor.
And it was an exciting fight all the way through, because in these two guys, and these two very aggressive, hard-punching boxer punches, what you got is two guys who ain't got the temperament to sit there feinting and fencing all fucking night. No, if they're jabbing, it's because they want to close the gap and get close enough to the guy to land something hard, land something meaningful.
It's what distinguishes pure boxers from boxer punchers.
It's the fight we're on. Virgil Ortiz landed a lot of hard shots. Igor Kavaliauskas was fading down the stretch.
Getting touched more and more.
Though he's ultimately stopped in the 8th round. He got knocked down 4 times in the 8th round alone. 5 times total throughout the course of the match. Virgil Ortiz, he really is something special. And this fight really confirmed it, because he came up against real tough, seasoned guy, been in there with world-class fighters, comes from a solid amateur background, and Virgil Ortiz looked sharp. He looked the part.
They obviously asked him about Crawford.
And you really can't fault Virgil Ortiz for his answer, for answering that question. He'd like Crawford, he'd like Manny, he'd like Spence, he'd like whoever. He'd like to get out there for a third time this year, before this year is out. Do I think Terence Crawford is in Virgil Ortiz's immediate future? I don't.
I still don't.
It's not a knock on Ortiz, it's not a knock on Crawford, it's just not a fight that I see happening before this year is out. Do I think that Virgil Ortiz is a world-class fighter, world-class contender? Yes, I do. Do I think he's ready to fight for a world title? Well, he's about as ready as he's gonna be.
Do you think he beats Crawford?
Not yet. Not yet, I don't. But that shouldn't stop Virgil Ortiz from trying. That shouldn't stop his team and his management from having that confidence in him, because he's really something special. And I say it all the time. Comes to Golden Boy Promotions stable of fighters, they're young guys, they're young up-and-comers. You often hear about Ryan more than you hear about Virgil. You often hear about Ryan's social media following and how he's an influencer and all this different stuff, when Virgil Ortiz strikes me as Golden Boy Promotions' ace in the hole. Excellent boxer, fan-friendly, very exciting, doesn't disappoint, has a very solid resume for a prospect who's only 23 fucking years old. You ask me, I think Virgil has a brighter future than Ryan. Ryan's too unstable.
He's been too unstable.
Whereas Virgil fucking Ortiz, he delivers, and he delivers on a deadline. Every single time. Every time this kid fights, it's more and more exciting.
Congratulations to him.
And finally, last night's bantamweight contest, last night's bantamweight title fight that a lot of people are reacting to. iReal tweeted, wow, still, Rigo left too many shots on the table. I saw Rigo winning, 9-3 by the way, but Rigo had to know he had to do more. The establishment doesn't like him. Reigning welterweight champion Terence Crawford tweeted, I don't know what they're talking about. Rigo is winning this fight, hands down, and it's not even close. Boxing scribe Brian Campbell tweeted, in a fight in which neither did anything offensive, to completely disregard defense and ring generalship, which are part of the scoring criteria, are just ridiculous. Yes, Rigondeaux is his own worst enemy, but how do you award completely ineffective aggression? These are just my thoughts.
That fight sucked.
I wholeheartedly feel that Guillermo Rigondeaux stunk out the place. He stunk out the joint.
John Riel sucked too.
Don't misunderstand me. I don't know that either of these guys won or lost last night's stinker. I just know that it wasn't entertaining, it wasn't enjoyable, and from where I was sitting, it felt like the same things that lost Guillermo Rigondeaux this fight are the exact same things that lost Huey Fury the Parker fight.
You're not exactly prying away the title from the other guy.
Racing around the ring, back against the ropes, going in cycles, not committing to any punches, not engaging, not doing much of anything aside from taking a tour to turnbuckles. Guillermo Rigondeaux himself tweeted post-fight, I'm not going to make excuses for anything. I was expecting a guy ready to blow my chin away and send me into retirement. But I'm not a picture on a bag. I can actually box. I learned before becoming a champ back in Cuba. He quote-unquote won, according to the judges. That is fine by me. Boxing has never been fair to me at the professional level. But he is no Pacquiao, and my chin is still on my head. Congratulations to the Filipino fans. You have a great champion. His name's Manny Pacquiao.
This was the Laborio Solis fight all over again.
Yeah, minus the knockdown.
7th round knockdown.
You guys know what I think because I told you before. I think Rigo's in and out game, as it were. The ability to bounce in and out of range, bounce in and out of striking distance, let off quick counter shots. I think that Father Time has caught up to him in that respect. I mean, he still has great fitness to have been able to stay on his bike.
For as long as he did.
I was getting exhausted just looking at him go from one end of the ring to the other. But as far as winning a boxing match, I hate to tell you this, but it ain't gonna work. It didn't work for Lara against Canelo. It didn't work for Huey Fury against Joseph Parker. And it didn't work last night for Guillermo Rigondeaux versus John Riel Casimero. And John Riel Casimero, he didn't do much to win this fight
He
either.
could have scored this fight a draw for all I care.
I didn't see either one of these two guys beat the man opposite the ring. I didn't see John Riel win this fight, and I didn't see Rigo win it either.
John can't pin him down. He can't catch him.
And Guillermo's just hauling tail as soon as John Riel gets within striking distance. I mean, are you really winning these rounds? Are you really trying to beat the man opposite the ring, or are you trying to beat the clock?
Oh, you're supposed to give Rigo defense and ring generalship.
Ring generalship is one of the more ambiguous terms in the sport of boxing. What does that really mean? I understand that John Riel Casimero was unable to effectively cut off the ring and pin Guillermo down to start landing hard shots. I understand that. That is one way to look at it. But another way to look at it,
It's John Riel that's moving him around that ring.
if Guillermo Rigondeaux's back is against those ropes and he's moving laterally from one end of the ring to the other, it's not happening on its own. It's because John Riel Casimero is on the hunt, stalking his opponent. And even if he's not getting off very many shots, guess what?
What?
Neither is Rigo.
The difference is he's not the defending champion.
We've been all through this. You're the challenger, he's the champion, but you're the guy spending most of your time on your bike. You're the guy spending most of your time on your back foot, and you're simply not landing enough to where you can justify that.
Sonny Edwards landed more on Mythalane than Rigo did on Casimero.
At times, Rigo's back was completely turned to John Riel Casimero. At times, he was borderline running from this guy.
It's not like he kept the fight in the center of the ring.
It's not like he was walking John Riel into punches or establishing dominance in the pocket, nothing of the sort. He was just moving from one turnbuckle to the next. And if he's doing so, it's because of John Riel Casimero advancing, attempting to close the gap.
Like I said, they could have scored it a draw for all I care.
But if they had scored this fight a draw, you know what that means. That means John Riel still keeps the title. That's what that means.
I don't feel like either of these guys won this fight.
I'm not going to lose sleep if John Riel keeps the belt. And I'm not, because Guillermo Rigondeaux didn't do a heck of a lot to try and take it from him. He didn't go in there and impose his will. He just ran from one end of the ring to the other for 12 rounds. I expected that Guillermo Rigondeaux might at least try to establish some dominance in the pocket, and because John Riel characteristically overshoots the distance and Rigo's reflexes aren't quite what they used to be, I expected the fight to be more of a clinch fest, and I didn't actually expect Rigo to move all that much, but he moved so much that it can't even turn into a clinch fest because you won't stand in one spot long enough for that to happen.
It was an awful fucking fight.
And I just don't have the patience to entertain the pretentious snobbery of would-be boxing purists and...
Boxing snobs.
I could have told you doing that shit ain't gonna win him the fight. Guess what? I did tell you.